Whatever. Yeah, exactly. You know what? Y'all are here. What are you going to do? Chapter 11 of Proverbs. I really do appreciate you guys stepping up. That was fantastic. I look forward to more of that. Man, you know, y'all come up and, did it come up? Y'all come up and share your stories and stuff with me, or come up and talk during prayer and stuff, and it's like, we don't often get that kind of window into each other's hearts, you know what I mean? We see this outside version. But it's so incredible how when we really see each other and our hearts and where we're struggling, it's like, there's like that little child inside, you know, that pain, that hurt, and it's like, I just feel like God just sees us as just a room full of little kids, you know? Like if you painted all of our hurt and our mess onto a little kid, we would just be broken for it, you know what I mean? But because of the shell we put on, or the shell life's put on us, or whatever, it's hard to sometimes see it like that. But I love this. You guys are a room full of precious people, precious hearts, and God sees you that way if nobody else does. Has nothing to do with what I'm talking about today. Chapter 11, verse 1. The Lord, see, literally 2 weeks out of the saddle, and it's all to be learned again. Verse 1, the Lord detests the use of dishonest scales, but he delights in accurate weights. Pride leads to disgrace. Amen? But with humility comes wisdom. Oh, I got to pause right here, actually. I forgot something. Well, I forgot more than one something, obviously. But so Thomas gave you guys some homework last week? Did Thomas... Did anybody do the homework last week? How did that go? Anybody? Anybody have an experience with Thomas's homework last week? What was that like?
It was hard for me not to say nothing. Because then I caught myself wanting to get into it, the conversation, and then I caught myself wanting to tell him to shut up.
Well, okay. Did you though?
No.
Hey! Any other brave souls?
I got mine in during just a minute ago.
Oh, just a minute ago.
Thomas did a great job.
Hey, all right.
I did my own homework.
Well, how did that go?
I didn't ruin a day because I didn't say something stupid about. I couldn't find something. And I was like, well, Savannah probably moved it, but she actually didn't. I just put it in the wrong place. And instead of me being mean about it, instead I was like, no, it's fine. It's not a big deal. We'll just try to figure it out. So I asked her questions. We figured it out. Turns out it was somewhere I put it. So instead of me ruining the day first thing in the morning, it was just kind of like, we need to find this. Oh, here it is. It's not in the place I thought it was.
I've been on that bait a lot of times. It's like I'm out for blood, and then it turns out to be my own blood that I'm having to harvest. I love it. All right. Dishonest scales. So I want to talk about this for a second. There's kind of like multiple applications. Man, I seem so loud. There's kind of like multiple applications of like dishonest scales. I was thinking about this, and really these verses are kind of tied together in a way I hadn't noticed before. Because when I read that, I always read like the outward application, like you're cheating somebody, you're not measuring, or even like on a judgment standpoint of like, think about this, judging others by a different standard than you use to judge yourself. That would be dishonest scales, right? It's not an accurate weight. It's not an even, fair. You see what I'm saying? But then there's an internal application of this as well. Of, think about dishonest scales with regards to maybe like a bathroom scale or something. Now, there might be some days that you would like your bathroom scale to be a little dishonest with you, right? But it would kind of, all days. Now, there's some real honesty. It would kind of defeat the purpose though, right? Like at the end of the day, like you want the scale you're using to be accurate with regards to, because you need to know. Am I 5 pounds over? Am I 10 pounds under? Am I 5 pounds under, right? You need an accurate scale with regards to measuring the right yourself. And that's where I kind of look and see the tie there of pride leads to disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Because we need to be measuring ourselves with accurate scales as well. 1 Corinthians 11:31 says, we've read this before, but if we were more discerning, if our scale was more accurate with regards to our own selves, we would not come under such judgment. We wouldn't find ourselves in situations where it's a mess, right? If we were more discerning with regards to our own selves. So what we're talking about today, kind of, in chapter 11, there's lots of stuff in there, and I'm going to get distracted and run some rabbit trails on some different things. But in general, when I look at chapter 11 of Proverbs, it's kind of got a lot in it about honesty. About honesty. And I love that it starts off this way. The Lord detests the use of dishonest scales in any arena. Accurate weights are His delight. To judge a thing correctly, to be discerning and correctly judging ourselves. Others, do y'all remember that one sermon where I was talking about how if we're not judging ourselves correctly, we're not capable of judging someone else correctly or something, right? Super important. All right, I'm going to move on. Verse 3, talking about honesty today. Honesty guides good people, where dishonesty destroys treacherous people. Riches won't help on the day of judgment, but right living can save you from death. The godly are directed by honesty. Now, I love that because something that I love about integrity, because that's what we're, in this whole big study of Proverbs that we're on, we're kind of talking about integrity, right? This quality of wisdom and integrity and this path of like doing things God's way. What I love about it is it's like a compass. We don't have to. Have y'all ever played cards before? Yeah, I'm speaking to the right crowd today. You know how you're playing cards and it's like, the whole game is kind of built around like, do I play the 4 now? Do I hold the 4 and wait? Like, when do I play what cards? Like that's kind of, and life can feel that way sometimes when we're trying to like figure it all out for our best interest and get things to work out and all this kind of stuff. Life can feel like a game of cards where it's like, how do I play this hand the best? And what I love about integrity is it stops mattering. The godly are directed by honesty. Honesty, integrity, these things become our compass. So it really doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about mind reading how a particular situation is going to play out. I don't even have to worry about it. All I have to worry about is what is right, what is true, what is integrity here. And I make that play. And then I trust that code, if I'm following that code, if I'm living by that integrity, if I'm living out of those principles, I trust that they will do my work for me and get me where I want to be in whatever arena, relationally, financially, you name it. If I'm living by the right principles, I don't have to worry about, it seems like if I'm honest here, then that's not going to work out for me. It doesn't matter. I play my cards by my code. See what I'm saying? And that directs me. The godly are directed by honesty. And I will tell you guys, because a lot of us probably struggle with honesty, but I'm just going to challenge you, man. Start being radically honest in your life, because that's what we're going to be talking about today, and we're going to get into other stuff on it. But if you will start living radically honestly, which I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. But I'm telling you, it won't do you wrong. It might not look like it's going to work out in your favor, but it's amazing how living by these principles ends up getting you around obstacles you didn't even know were there that you would have crashed right into if you were trying to figure it out for yourself. The godly are directed by honesty. The wicked, by contrast, fall beneath their load of sin. This godliness that I'm talking about of good people rescues them. The ambition of treacherous people traps them. I got a little line here I wrote, Pastor, we can't help it. We got to do these little quips. Ambition without this good direction that I'm talking about, without integrity, ambition, passion, zeal, without good direction, not bounded by good principles, leads to indiscretion. When you have a bunch of force driving behind, but you don't have those qualities of wisdom, those qualities of discernment, bounding them in, trust me, they don't lead you good places. So let's talk about honesty a little bit. What is honesty? Exactly. Like, I think the child version of this would be never lying, right? So what is lying? And this is where it gets kind of gray. And that's where it's like we all have different values there. It's like some of us are like super strict about that. And then there's, this is white lies or partial truths. Well, I really was going there to pick them up. You know what I'm talking about? What is lying? What's the line? I think most of us would agree about like overtly spinning falsehoods. But what about, let me ask you this, what about coming to church on Sundays, like most people do, and pretending like everything's great when everything's not great? Is that lying? No. Most of y'all would say it's not lying, probably. I would have said it's not lying, but is it living honestly? You see what I'm getting at? So when we look at honesty, we got to get a little broader than just, well, I haven't technically lied. Me and Ross, we get on this all the time with recovery. Honesty takes on a whole new meaning, Lies, the definition of what lie I told gets so different, where at one point in time it was, oh, well, yeah, I straight up told that person a lie, and then lies suddenly become, oh, well, I left something out, and now, nope, I lied, And it's interesting how our standards for that change. When we first get around God, when we first get around recovery, like, our bar is pretty low, because it's just, we're doing better than we were. And that's not a high bar for a lot of us, When it comes to honesty, as what we're talking about today, that's not a high bar, doing better than I did yesterday, And that's where it's like God's standard is so far beyond ours, not to condemn us, but to lead us towards better. The heart of honesty, because it's always the heart of the thing. I said a couple weeks ago how the difference between principles and rules, where principles are flexible and can be applied in multiple different situations in multiple different ways, because they're about the heart of the thing, being true to the heart of the thing, where rules are by the law, to the letter. You know what I mean? They're not flexible. The heart of honesty is about living in alignment with what is true, regardless of the perceived cost of doing so, as opposed to trying to bend and flex reality to fit what you want it to be. Now, y'all know what I'm talking about here. We spend a lot of time trying to bend reality to fit what we need or want it to be, as opposed to being relentless in aligning ourselves with whatever reality dictates, whatever is true. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? It's really challenging. Why are we dishonest? There's really one very straight answer to this. Man, just y'all are getting good. Y'all don't even need this anymore. Fear. Like pretty much anything that we choose to be dishonest of, it's because we're afraid of the truth. Even if we don't even realize that what we're saying isn't true, because denial is dishonesty that we don't even realize is dishonesty. We've talked ourselves into it, And I think denial is maybe the scariest, because we actually believe our own lie. We're not just fooling others, we're fooling ourselves. I mean, that's scary. Who's driving the car at that point? But we're afraid of the truth. And so we're defensive, or we're argumentative, or we shift the blame, or whatever it might need to be. We can't align ourselves with the truth. Because of fear, we fabricate. We try to flex the truth to fit what we need it to be. And what I want to tell you guys, especially if you struggle with living honestly, again, not lying. I know that didn't make a lot of sense. Not lying, but living honestly, which is very different. living honestly in everything that you do, walking a path of integrity that's defined by an honest lifestyle. If you struggle with that, what I want to tell you is that fear is at the base of that. And the Bible tells us that perfect love casts out fear. It's like one of the biggest statements in the Bible. Because really, guys, when we're talking about honesty and dishonesty, beneath all of that, we're talking about fear and love. A lot of people talk about fear and faith, but really, it's kind of fear versus love. Because what I want to tell you guys is, man, most of us walking the earth, living out in the world, and what we're living a lifestyle, we're living out a system that is built on fear. That's why even like our relationship with God tends to be so fear-based. I mean, it's so hard to find a religious or a spiritual thing out there that isn't got some fear built into it at the base. The world runs on fear. Fear of failure is like a good thing. And I'm not saying that there's never, but really, whenever fear is at play, bondage is in the mix. Whenever fear is in the mix, so is bondage. Fear brings about bondage. And the beauty of the gospel is that it is built not on fear, but on love. Not on, as we talked about the other day, like a fear of the Lord that's actually like I'm afraid of him, but a reverence, right? Remember that? The gospel is all about learning to live a system that is built on love. Because when we experience perfect love, when we're exposed to and encounter genuine love, it gives us a permission, a security. I like that word, permission. It gives us a permission to be honest. And when you find that, when you're exposed to that, and that's where some of you might have been exposed to that a little bit in freedom groups or recovery or whatever, being around, man, like these people just do things differently. Like, man, these people are honest and there's a safety here. Right? Like I don't think we're there yet by any stretch, but I hope that we embody some of that. But when we begin to encounter genuine spirituality, genuine love, and when it begins to help reveal to us what God's love for us is really like, when we get in those environments, recovery, whatever, it starts to change things. And it gives us a permission to be honest with ourselves where before we would have been afraid to. Because I'll tell you, when you get around that, the first person that you'll start being honest with is yourself. In fact, you can't really be honest with anybody else till you're able to be honest with yourself. I've met people that are extremely transparent, but everything they're telling you is like so void of reality that it doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? It's like they're completely transparent, but they're so deep in denial that, you've probably all been in a group with somebody like that at some point or been, where it's like, wow, they're just bearing their soul, but they're not seeing this right. You know what I mean? That doesn't really do it. I mean, it's a good place to start maybe, but the first person we become honest with is ourselves. And we can only really do so when love gives us permission to. Because I can't really, it's when my system's built on fear, and I'm sorry, I know I'm going on about this. I sat down to write this sermon yesterday after we drove through the night, Friday night, and I realized Saturday morning at about 11 that was a bad idea. That I probably should have already done it, because have y'all ever pulled up the internet and it's just like, that's kind of how my brain was yesterday. So, but I really guys, this is a big deal. For most of my life, I really struggled to be honest with myself, and I didn't even realize it completely. I certainly couldn't be honest with other people. Because, my system was built on fear. My relationship with God was built on fear. My relationship with other people was definitely built on fear. Man, when we started this church, I was scared to death of you guys. I realized it was even just a couple months ago, I realized how afraid of other people I am, But as I begin to encounter perfect love, as I begin to realize that God's system is not built on fear, it gives me this permission to look at it's like our group work, our parts work and stuff that we were doing in group. It gives me this permission to look at all these different parts of me. Look at all of this different brokenness and stuff, but not be afraid of it, to be secure. Look at the mess I've made. Look at how wrong I've actually been. Have you guys ever realized that, you were actually wrong about something, but you were really afraid to go back and admit that? There's fear, right? But why? Are any of us perfect? I realized the other day, somebody had told me when I was a kid, somebody had told me that Lake Dardanelle is such a huge lake and it's massive. They told me it has like a 1 point something million miles of shoreline. And I don't know how many people I have told that. Two months ago, I told my brother-in-law that when they were in. I never even thought about it. And I was driving to work like 2 weeks ago. I told Tom, I was driving to work, I was crossing the Dyke Road, and I have no idea why, but suddenly that popped into my mind, and I was like, that's like going to Saturn and back. Like, that's like circumnavigating the earth multiple times. There's no way. Looked it up on Google when I got to work. 300 miles. Thomas was trying to help me when I got to work. He was like, well, maybe it was feet. No, it wasn't even close. There's not 1.3 million inches. Now, I use this as an example because, see, this is a silly example, of course, but I find sometimes we see silly examples better. Now, if I'm living in fear, then I'm in a real pickle because I can't go back and admit how dumb that was. You know? Because I'm so worried about how I look or how I might, David believed. But see, when I begin to get secure because of perfect love and knowing that I'm accepted as I am, that God loves me and that it's not about, and then I can laugh at it. I can go back and share that, right? Admit like, oh my gosh, I told you that. And I just am realizing how gullible I am. Like, I'm just realizing, like, how many things that I just have taken as fact. And see, I can just share that. And I can be honest about something I'm realizing and growing in. Like, hey, I should probably fact check more. And it doesn't have to be this big thing, right? How many things in our life are like that, guys? Because we live out of fear. But what I want to tell you guys is that perfect love casts out fear, where we can all, because of perfect love, when we get it, we can all live more honestly. We can all have the kind of fun we just had. We can all share ourselves with one another and be more honest with ourselves as well. Now you done it. Right? Do you see what I'm talking about? Now, I want to side note this. I want you to know this. Genuine honesty, living honestly, will always align. Now, y'all hear me. This is important. It will always align with love. And here's what I mean. God is not at war with himself. Where we have parts and stuff and our parts are at war. God is not at war with himself. And so what I'm saying is we have all these different qualities that God defines. So in other words, we say God is love because it's not like there's some love existence out in the ether that we use to describe God, because God is kind of like that. No, God defines it, right? God is love, God is truth, all of these different things. He defines it. His being defines it, brings definition to it. Y'all see that? So here's the thing. Sometimes we get out of whack because it's like we end up tied, twisted up, because we feel like, let me use this as an example. Well, to be honest, I can't be loving in this situation, or to be loving, I can't be honest. But what I want you to know is that, listen, all these attributes of God, they're not in conflict with one another. So when we find them to be in conflict, we're not in alignment with them. Does that make sense? When we find ourselves like, we're not understanding it. because God is not at war with himself. So here's like an example of this. Some people think they're really honest. Or would say maybe somebody, oh, yeah, they're super honest because they just tell it like it is. And I've met some people that think they're really honest because they just say whatever comes out into their brain at any given moment, you know? It's like, no, you're not honest. You just don't have a filter. You know what I mean? Like, just calling it like you see it, that's not necessarily being honest because the way you see it may not be it, right? And so I want you to understand that when we're investigating a quality or an attribute like honesty, we need to look at it and bounce it off the other things, because if honesty is self-serving, if honesty is puffing up instead of building up, if honesty is tearing down, if honesty is not patient and kind and whatever, then it's probably not a genuine honesty. It's probably not genuine integrity, because when you're living it right, it falls into alignment. All of these things, and that's where we've got to consider all of these things in light of the overall manifesto. Because by contrast, sometimes people are like, well, you know, I want to be loving. And sometimes people will not be honest, and in that, they're not being loving. Sometimes we need tough love. We need hard truth. Sometimes the hard truth you're saying makes you feel good and is not building up the other person. Do y'all get what I'm getting after? So we've got to look at things in a broader scope than just, again, principles, the heart of the matter versus rules. Because that's what guides us into truth. That's what guides us into right living. That's what guides us into productive, fruitful lives. It's not rules, but understanding principles. Because as we begin to understand that, we begin to understand God's heart. And then we know when it looks like whatever it looks like. And I'll quit beating that horse. We'll move on, because I'm gonna come back around to that a little bit here in a minute. So all right, verse 7. 11:7. When the wicked die, their hope dies with them, for they rely on their own feeble strength. The godly are rescued from trouble, and it falls on the wicked instead. Now I want to point out here, sometimes when I read the godly are rescued from trouble, I'm like, I see a lot of trouble falling on the godly, right? Like, I mean, like Ross was saying during his thing, it's just like one thing after another after another. I just want to point out, because I noticed this. It says the godly are rescued from trouble. You don't need rescued from something that you're not neck deep in. Do you see that? So really, this is actually promising that we will find ourselves in trouble. Do you see that? We will find ourselves in trouble. We don't need rescued from it if we're not in it. So what this is saying is that, What this is saying is that while the godly experience trouble, because we do, every one of you guys. I mean, it blows my mind sometimes, the troubles that be. The stuff that just is like, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, sometimes sometimes I'm having a good week and Ross calls me and it's like, I feel a little bad, you know, like, or vice versa maybe, you know. Sorry, Ross, you got to move somewhere because I just naturally.
I can take it.
But this is saying that while the godly do experience trouble, that they come through it, that they're refined by it, that they are not only rescued from it, they're rescued through it. It's amazing, the growth. And I know we say this a lot, but I just want to encourage some of you guys that are going through difficult things. Guys, the growth that we experience as we go through troubled times and we lean into those around us, we get honest, keeping my theme here. We make the phone call, we share what's going on, we get prayer, we get lifted up, we get encouraged, whatever. Like the amount of growth that comes through seasons of trouble is, I mean, that's honestly, that's where it happens. Like we get to enjoy the fruits on the other end, but the growth happens in the trouble. And because of that, it's not something God's going to always spare you from, because He wants you to grow. You know, the church example of this is you got to get rained on, you know. Plant. Got to get rained on if it's going to produce fruit. It's got to get rained on if it's going to grow. And I want you guys to know, and this is such a big promise, but we see this multiple times in the New Testament. Guys, there's nothing that we can experience in this life, and that's a bold statement. There's nothing we can experience in this life that cannot be shaped into good for us. And when I say nothing, the loss of a child. Let's go to the hard stuff here. Loss, grief, hurt, pain. But I want you to know that if we will surrender to the process, which doesn't mean like getting our crap together. It looks like walking with God and walking with others through the process. And sometimes that just looks like grief after grief after grief and just dark day after dark day where we're not at all like, we don't at all feel like we're living victoriously. We don't at all feel like our head is hung low. We're walking with difficulty. Physical disabilities, y'all. Nothing. There's nothing we can go through in life that if we do not embrace, I didn't say that right, that if we embrace it, cannot be turned into something good for us. I'm telling you, I'm convinced of this. But it comes down to that embracing it thing. Because a lot of us, we go through hardship and instead we do that thing I was saying earlier. We try to, instead of aligning ourselves with reality in surrender and in embracing it, recovery talks about living life on life's terms, and I change it a little to say living life on God's terms, which is you're allowing me to be in this situation. Instead of rebelling against it and shaking my fist against it and trying to bring reality into alignment with my will, I take that, Jesus approach, not my will, your will. So I'm going to embrace this hardship. I'm going to figure out how to carve out a good life in it. Guys, I'm going to tell you something. That attitude, man, there's so much growth and healing. And guys, the person that God can make you into if you will approach life with that attitude, that wherever you plant me, I'm going to figure out how to carve out a good thing in it. Man, that is surrendered. That is embracing God's will for your life. And I'm telling you, the places He can take you and the growth He can bring when you stop fighting it is incredible. It's incredible, guys. And I'm telling you, I know it's hard. I know it's hard. But what choice do we have? That's what it really comes down to. What choice do we have? We can keep railing against reality and trying to do it our way and trying to, it shouldn't be this way. I should be, thinking of me, I should be able to get this done in that amount of time. Or I can embrace reality, accept a new reality and figure out, okay, God, figure out how to make it something good. Oh, how He'll meet you there and grow you. If you will take that approach, I'm telling you, nothing, you're unstoppable. Nothing you can go through in life cannot be turned on its head and used like jet fuel to propel you in your growth and in your healing. Verse 9. With their words, the godless destroy their friends, wives, families. But knowledge will rescue the righteous. I think y'all talked about words a little bit last week. We're going to talk about it a little more this week. Actually, you know what? As I was making my thing this morning, so I give Thomas chapter 10. Here, you do chapter 10. I'll do chapter 11. I go look at his slides this morning when I'm putting mine in. He used more verses out of chapter 11 than he did out of chapter 10. What a guy. What a guy. Swerving over into my lane. Don't bother me. I wasn't here. Y'all are just going to get it again. All right. God gave Adam the authority to name. I've heard this preached on a number of times, and I think people can get out of whack with it, but there's no question. God gave Adam and man, the authority to name the creatures of the garden and all of this, right? It's in Genesis. Go read it. And I think that we carry that same authority to name and to speak over that which God has put us in authority over. I think it's part of what He made us to be. And like I say, I think people get out of whack with some of that, like name it, claim it type of vibes and stuff, and I don't go with that. But I do know that there is power in our words. There's power in our words. There's power in what we choose to name something. And I want to tell you guys, because I've been really bad about this. Like fathers, what we speak over our kids, what we name our kids, or don't name them. How about that? There's so many kids walking around today that don't have a name. And I mean, they have a name. Their name's Bill, and their name's John. They don't have a name. They haven't been named. They haven't been spoken over in that way. They haven't been affirmed in the right things. And guess what they do? Well, you all know. What do? We go try to find a name. Yeah, I've said it before. And we find all the wrong names, you know what I mean? Because the world, the enemy, he's got a conveyor belt of options for us that he would love to name us. We need to be cautious of the power of our words in what we speak over that which we're in authority over our kids, over our families, our wives. Wives, same thing to you guys. You speak over your homes, your kids. We all speak over ourselves. You ever notice how when you're kind of, let's just say, like the farthest from a good, grounded, godly kind of place, how like our words just turn on us? Like maybe not, maybe y'all aren't this way, but I don't know. I've noticed that whenever I like get away from that grounded identity in God, it's like my language about me turns against me. It's just like I just start my language is so negative over myself. So many lies and we'll wait. All right. What are you speaking over your life? Let me ask you this. This is interesting. We're talking about honesty because I said there's kind of a thread of honesty all through this thing. If you're speaking things over your life, your wife, your kids, your family, whatever, your job, if you're speaking things over your life that are not in alignment with what God has spoken over your life, are you being honest? Is that dishonest? Would you call that lying? No, we wouldn't call that lying. But when we're speaking negative truths over our lives, we're not speaking in alignment with truth of what God has spoken to be true. And so we're embracing a dishonest lifestyle. Interesting. I want to encourage you guys, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time here because I feel like Thomas talked about this some. But I want to encourage you guys to speak truth, speak life. I'm not saying that speaking things over your life means that they just come into existence. Again, I'm not a big name it, claim it guy. I'm not saying that speaking financial blessings over your life, I'm not saying that. But I will tell you, if you wake up and you choose to combat the enemy's lies that he wants to speak over your life with truth, that's a big deal. And it sets a tone. If you begin to speak over yourself and confirm the identity God has given you, to embrace it as your heritage, and to claim it over yourself rather than embracing the negative lies of identity and all that. It's a big deal. Because, all of that leads to what I was talking about earlier, where we begin to finally take ownership of the perfect love that is ours to be had. The secure, grounded heritage that is ours to be had. And when we find that, guys, everything changes. Psalm 19, 14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Our words are kind of like the billboards of our hearts. The Bible says, from the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So it's not just about speaking, because I think that's where you get into kind of some of the, kind of newfangled, just like, y'all know what I'm talking about, where it's just like, I'm just going to say all this stuff. But it's speaking, and it's let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart. As we work on our heart, and we bring healing, and we begin to challenge the lies, and we begin to all these different things, do that hard work. We're always talking about that heart work. And then we begin to speak in alignment with it. That is a powerful combination of beginning to bring about change, to bring about restoration in our lives. Verse 10. The whole city celebrates when the godly succeed. They shout for joy when the wicked die. Why? The next verse. Upright citizens are good for a city and make it prosper, but the talk of the wicked tears it apart. It is foolish to belittle one's neighbor. A sensible person keeps quiet. A gossip goes around telling secrets, but those who are trustworthy can keep a confidence. Now, I think here's where Thomas went ahead of me. Did y'all talk about gossip last week? All right, well, we'll talk about it a little more today. I'll keep it brief, though. The big thing I just look at is why. Why, because I think there's all kinds of practical things we work on to try to do better in an area, but ultimately, like at some point, we've got to find the why. Because if we never find the why, you are locked in a lifelong battle with something that will never go away. In other words, if I never pull up the root, then that vine is going to keep growing up the side of my barn for the rest of my life, which will require me to consistently get out the weed eater and chop it down. And I could do that, but ultimately we're called to get down to the why and to bring healing to that, because we ultimately only have so many resources, right? How many of you guys feel like it's like life becomes a game of whack-a-mole with all your bad parts, So we've got to start getting at least a few of the parts down to the why, figuring out the why, so that we can quit having to do so. For me, I can't say for you, but what I realized about like gossip is that like one of the reasons that it gave me that good feeling was because making others look small, stupid, rejectable made me feel less so. Like it made me, like I realized, and usually, to be honest, I can't say that. No, I like talking bad about people. Yeah, no, I can't go there quite. But a lot of times I wouldn't be the one doing the gossip. I would just be more on the receiving end. But I always got this really good feeling from it, and I realized it always was like, that's so weird. Why do I do that? Why do I feel that? Like, that's so not God. And I realized one day it was because, like, I'm on this end of it, Like, I'm somehow on the in crowd here instead of being on that end. I'm not the one getting made fun of right now. And something about that made me feel a little more safe and secure, and it felt like this kind of warm blanket. And realizing that helped me to begin to understand that and begin to deal with that root thing and to begin to address, well, why am I, like what I said earlier to you guys, why am I going through life with so much fear that this would have such a powerful effect, right? I don't know what's your reason, because I think everybody in here, I don't think everybody in here would probably raise your hands if I asked how many of y'all struggle with gossip, but I think everybody in here struggles with gossip. One way or another. We just like talking bad about each other. Doggone it, there's so much to talk bad about. Whatever the reason that we might struggle with it, I will promise you this. It has a lot more to do with you than it does anything else. Your fear, insecurity, inadequacy. As I said, we live in systems that are defined by fear. Our whole life system is built around fear. And one thing that I realized is that feeling I got from the gossip was kind of a double-edged sword, because the very system that made me feel good about the fact that I wasn't on that end of the stick made me also afraid. In that same system, I lived in fear of being on that end of the stick, right? And I found a new place now. Not that I'm 100% there or anything like that, but that's a better way to put it. I'm finding a new place where I'm not on either end of that stick. Because see, love on this end hurts for. Love protects. Love always protects, perseveres. You're right, all that. Love is like bothered by. I don't want to talk bad about that person. I'm like very concerned for them, right? And then if love finds it, and then in a system based on love, I'm really not that worried about being on that end of the stick. It's okay. There's so much y'all can talk bad about me on. Like we could just let's just talk bad about me together. Like that's kind of like security and love. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to worry about all that. You see what I'm saying? And this is just an area that I just feel like we need to grow in, because I will say this, guys: nothing destroys the safety of church more than when it becomes a place of gossip. Because here's the truth, we can't really be honest with each other if that's what we are. Take freedom groups. We come out, hey, freedom groups are a safe place. They're a place where we can get real and get honest. How long are you going to do that if you show up and then everybody goes out and talks, how long is that going to work? Yeah, no. You're done. You're shut down. And in a way, even though we can't get on the same level, like it's not like the principles and the good experience we have in freedom groups is meant to just be limited to that one little thing, right? It's a principle of life. It's God. It's the gospel. So in a way, we're one big freedom group in here, but we can't be that if we're not safe. If it's not a safe place, we can't be honest. And so this is something this is important, guys, because if we're going to have a church environment that is safe, where we can all enjoy the benefits of being our real true selves and coming to church with our real true selves, with our face tattoos and all, and our struggles, be honest about where we're really at and enjoy, I hope y'all enjoy that. If we're going to enjoy that, it's got to be a safe place. And gossip just tears that down, tears down our unity. So I don't know what all Thomas preached on, but I encourage y'all to dig into that. And again, to dig into the why. Why does talking bad about this person make me feel good? Because I promise, there's always something about you tied up in that, behind that. And I'll tell you, when you figure that out, you'll find a whole lot of other stuff attached to it, and you'll just go on a great little healing journey there. All right, verse 14. I'm moving on through this, y'all. We're getting there. Without wise leadership, a nation fails. There's safety in having many advisors. I just want to encourage you leaders. We're talking about this honesty, this humility and stuff. I think Thomas brought that verse up last week too. Safety in many advisors. I want you guys to know for leadership, because you know what? More of you guys are in leadership than you think. It's easy to look at Sheridan and be like, oh yeah, leadership. But a lot of you guys are in some form of leadership, And I want you to know, being teachable. A lot of times when we get in the position of leadership, it's like suddenly we adjust our principles because of that position, as though all of these principles that we do out there in everyday life, they can't apply in leadership, But I want you guys to know, being teachable is more important than knowing everything. Okay? The people that you're following, the people that are following you, thank you. Did I just thank myself? I don't know. The people that are following you will learn a lot more from watching you own a mistake or not know everything and be willing to ask questions. Man, that's going to set up a culture. Because I want you to understand something. In leadership, whatever leadership it is, whether you're the top person or whether you're a group leader, leadership establishes culture. That's one of the most significant things you do as a leader, is that you establish, not by what you say, but by what you do. You establish the culture around you. Okay? And when you're teachable, it tells the people that are following you a lot. And it sets up the stage for them to do the same. So being teachable is more important than knowing everything. Being able to own a mistake is more important than never making one. Way more important. And I see a lot of people in leadership that really put themselves in a little cinder block room of almost self-protection, and somehow they write it off as oh, well, you've got to appear strong and you've got to have it all together. You know what I mean? Being a person of quality. Here's another one. Being a person of quality is better than looking like one. There's so many things with leadership where it's just not what it seems. Jesus talks about the greatest must be the least. I want to encourage you guys, don't lead out of fear. Fear says, oh, well, you don't want to look, you're the leader. You're supposed to know better. You're supposed to know everything, and you don't know that. Sometimes you guys come up and ask me spiritual questions, and I could be like, well, I got to have an answer because I'm a pastor. It does not bother me to be like, I have no clue. Let's look it up on Google type of thing. That's good. Fear says, oh, you made that mistake, but you can't own that mistake. But guys, when you lead out of fear, you just keep backing yourself into an increasingly difficult situation. Sorry, I digress. There's safety in having many advisors. A lot could be said about that. I love it when you guys come up and ask, well, I'm thinking about doing this, but what do you think I should do? That's a good thing. That's a good thing. I've said it before. There's a healthy amount of kind of self-doubt in being in a really good place moving forward, where we're not completely confident in what we see, and we're willing to ask some questions, and we're willing to get some advice. It's a really good thing. I encourage you guys to do that. I'm going to push on through this, guys. I'm going to read the rest of this. Proverbs 11:15. There's danger in putting up security, for a stranger's debt. It is safer not to guarantee another person's debt. That is true. A gracious woman gains respect, but ruthless men gain only wealth. Your kindness will reward you, but your cruelty will destroy you. Evil people get rich for the moment, but the reward of the godly will last. Godly people find life. Evil people find death. Amen? Living out these things that we're trying to describe, this integrity, it leads us to life where doing it our way, regardless of how hard we tried, we ended up in the valley instead of the mountain. You know what I mean? We found death instead of the life we were after. The Lord detests people with crooked hearts. Here we are again. But He delights in those with integrity. Evil people will surely be punished, but the children of the godly will go free. A beautiful woman who lacks discretion is like a gold ring in a pig's snout. Ouch. The godly can look forward to a reward, while the wicked can expect only judgment. Give freely and become more wealthy. Be stingy and lose everything. The generous will prosper, but those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. People curse those who hoard their grain, but they bless the one who sells in time of need. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here, but I do just want to say this, guys. I just spent the last week in Hilton Head, South Carolina, with Abby's family, hanging out. And there's a lot of wealthy people out there. It's a wealthy area. And, you go out to eat, you go out to dinner or whatever, and it's just like, you just see it, like, everybody's name brand, everything. And it's amazing the amount of people that you look at and you can just see, like, there's no happiness there. And they got everything. They got everything. I just want to encourage you guys, like, money's great, but it ain't it, What's of true value, and Proverbs has said this many times already, is what's in here. So not a lot of us in here have a whole lot of money, but that's okay. Like, get this right and let God bless you with the rest. Be generous, not just with your money. Be generous with your time. Yet again, we live in a fear-based system. What does stinginess come out of? Fear. A lot of us, have you ever heard of a poverty mentality? Don't have a lot, so everything is, and that's where we, you see like maybe a hoarder or something where it's like they can't get rid of anything because we all had that, great-grandparent or grandparent or whatever that lived through the Depression and, It's not a good way to live. Living out of fear, again, just leads to bondage. Be generous. There's freedom in that, man. I tell you what, when I look back on the ways that I've been generous and stuff, it's like I don't look back on any of them and be like, man, I wish I hadn't done that. It was a good thing. And you know what? God has taken good care of me. God has taken good care of me. And I'm not saying be generous with us as the church. Be generous with each other. What a thing that strengthens the bonds of the body when we're loving on each other, Being generous with each other. I love in Acts where it talks about how the believers were all of one heart and one mind, and they were selling their stuff, and the people who had enough were taking care of people who didn't. And, what a beautiful picture of what we're supposed to be. Love that. If you search for good, you will find favor. But if you search for evil, it will find you. Trust in your money and down you go, but the godly flourish like leaves in spring. Those who bring trouble on their families inherit the wind. The fool will be a servant to the wise. The seeds of good deeds become a tree of life. We've seen that before. Galatians, what we sow, we reap. A wise person wins friends. If the righteous are rewarded here on earth, what will happen to wicked sinners? All right, guys. We've gotten to this place in Proverbs where I'm usually finding there's like a thread of something through it, but it's kind of like just this collection of colloquialisms almost that are trying to help paint us a picture of what a godly life looks like, how a godly person behaves versus how a fool or whatever, how the antithesis of that goes. And so it's hard because there's so much to talk about. I feel like we could just preach like 100 messages out of just, one of these. And I encourage you guys to be reading through these with us as we go. I encourage you guys to learn how to be honest. And I say learn how because We may not be able to be until we find that place where love has cast out fear in our lives. But I want to encourage you guys, man, it's so good being honest. It's so good being honest. Like, y'all know that feeling when you say something that isn't true and it's like a weight on your back because now you got to remember to like not accidentally double cross the story you told, and then, or there's it's so good to live without that. I've learned the upfront cost of being honest to whatever degree and at whatever level. The upfront hurt, which sometimes there isn't a hurt, but sometimes it hurts to be honest. But man, it is so much less painful than carrying around a lie. If you've screwed up, own it. Be honest, man. Be honest with yourself. Be willing to face truth about yourself. It's so much better than trying to hold up a reality that isn't true. If you've sat there and you fought tooth and nail with your wife, like I did last night, and then you come around and realize that, you know what, no, I was the butt of this situation, just go own it. Be willing to just be honest with yourself and then go be honest with them. That's a good life, guys. I just want to encourage you in that. It's worth it. You guys bow your heads with me. Lord, I lift all of us up. And God, we just keep digging through this book on integrity. And today we've kind of dug into talking about one aspect of integrity, which is living an honest lifestyle. Not hiding. Living in the light. Walking in the light as you are in the light. Where we find fellowship with one another. And where your blood cleanses us from all things, God. I pray that you would help. God, for a lot of us, we're kind of just figuring out what an honest lifestyle even looks like. We don't necessarily have a good working definition of that, and that's okay. You meet us where we're at, God. Pray that you would help us in this, that we would grow to be people of honesty, people of integrity in this area. And in all of this, God, what I talked about, I pray that you'd set us free from fear. I pray that we wouldn't live so afraid. I pray that we would be connected to love in a way, God, that sets us free. That we can experience, without shame, God, who you made us to be. That love can lead us, God, that your love can lead us into all things. And that we could become people marked by living a life of abundance, God, inside and out. I pray this over all of us. In Jesus' name. God, I also lift up stepping stones. I don't know what exactly is going on over there with that whole situation, God. I don't have a lot of details, but I pray over whatever's going on over there and this individual who lost their life, God. And I just pray over the whole situation. I pray over all the people involved. I just pray that you would be with them. In Jesus' name, amen. You guys have...